Hello, and welcome everyone to another podcast episode of Energy Unleashed. I'm here with my co-host, Kim Hess.
Hello, everyone.
Hello, hello. These are actual client sessions where I share some information and then Kim jumps in and we sort of unleash it so that we can all learn from one another. And this one is so super cool. I'm excited to do it because not only did this client have this happen, but I've had snippets of this happening with several clients. I'm realizing now, kind of like looking back, and I think I might even be having some of this happening myself. And I think you actually have some of this.
I'm sure I am with the way things are going. Absolutely.
So what we're going to talk about today in terms of the client session is timelines. It's interpenetrating timelines. It's overlapping timelines. This is some crazy stuff that I've already written about in my book, Confident Empath. There's some really cool client stories with interpenetrating timelines. So what does that mean? First and foremost, let's do this. A timeline. We are living in layers of what we would call dimensions. So take what resonates today, let anything go that doesn't fit your belief system. So we live in almost like a layer cake. And the way I used to teach it back when was we would have like, your typical sponge cake. You'd have a layer and then frosting, layer, frosting, layer, frosting. And we live in, let's put numbers on them, dimensional timelines. Dimensions, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, all the way up to what we would call infinite or source or God source energy. And as we go up, they get less what we would consider real because we can't see, touch, or feel anything. And as they come down, they become more matter and solid. We are existing currently in the third dimension of time and space. Mm-hmm. And in this ascension process, many are going through the fourth dimension up into the fifth. In my opinion, no one is in the fifth dimension fully because it's just not possible quite yet. But many, many people who are doing their spiritual journeying or ascension process are raising their frequency, meaning that love light energy is getting less dense and they are tapping into the 4D that we always are in anyway when we're subconscious or dreaming, and tipping toeing into that 5D. And then we kind of jump around 3, 4, 5, 5, 4, 3, 4, 3, 5, and etc. Right? So that's kind of where we're at with the dimensions. What has happened, however, is that frosting in between each of the sponge cake layers is now dissipating. It is almost non-existent. I say in classes, it's down to an egg wash. I mean, there is no actual definition like there used to be, even, 5, 6 years ago, in terms of these different dimensions. So each dimension has 2 timelines. So we're in a dualistic reality here. So dimension 1 will have a this or a that. Dimension 2, a this or a that. So even for us that are sitting in 3D, we're actually in 6 timelines. For the people that are jumping around in 5 or 6, you can be in 10 to 12 timelines. It's a lot. Does that make some sense right there? That was
kind of I when you doubled it, I was like, what? Wait a minute. So dimension 1 is 2.
Yep.
Dimension 2 is 4. Dimension 3 is 6. Okay.
Exactly. So even in our normal 3D everyday muggle lives, I got my Gryffindor shirt. I didn't even mean to do that. That's funny. My Harry Potter shirt. Our muggle lives, just being normal, humans, we're in 6 timelines, right? Meaning that we have lots of ways to perceive, create, experience, etc. And this is hard for people because most people think it just is this, and it isn't just this. We are having the ability to traverse. When this is happening, it also gets a little bit more unstable because we can overlap or interlap, or we can wrinkle, or we can double up, and we don't understand this because it's simply light and frequency. So it's not like I'm going to go, hey, I just walked through a wrinkle in a timeline. It's not going to happen like that because we don't see dimensional timelines. We don't see, and most of us don't even feel the dimensions, right? Unless we're really great at our psychic skills, we know something changed in frequency. So it's hard. We are getting very messed up, and this will affect our physical, our emotional, our mental situations, and our life completely, right? So one of the things that I'm finding, let's go to this client now. She was a really adorable young gal. She probably in her, I don't know, late 30s, maybe pushing around, probably late 30s. I know that she has a child and is married, and she has had a crazy life the last several years, bouncing around, moving from here to there and here to there. And I actually worked on her remote a way long time ago, and now she's back in the cities here. So I had her in person, and she said, it's been tough for these last years. I feel stuck, especially lately. I feel stuck. And she said, and I have these really sad emotions going on. I just have sad. And she said, I can't make any decisions, which is not me normally. And she came because I can't get my focus. I can't do my work. I can't stay grounded. And she knows quite a bit about energy. In fact, she was at my Confident Empath class recently. And the really funny part is, this session was probably a week after my class, but during the class, she asked this really interesting question. She said, do you think people can be in two timelines at one time, or two lifetime scenarios at one time simultaneously? And I said, oh yeah, I totally believe that. And she said, that's really interesting. And she goes, I don't even know why I thought of that. And we just all let it kind of go in the class. Here she ends up in my office a week later. And as we're dissecting down what she's dealing with, and I jump into the work, it's freaking exactly what she was doing. And I want to make this really clear. This is different than, oh, I'm bringing in a past life timeline, because I write about that in my book a lot. And I've even had people that are in future timelines, but this particular girl was in simultaneous timelines. So what that means is this: if I have a trajectory in my life, and this is my soul contracts, and these are all the people that are involved when I stick my fingers up like this, okay? And if my flow of life is going down this path or this river, and these are the people that I'm dealing with, if I make a free will choice over here, this is my reality, right? I move into these contracts, and I move into this other hand of all of these experiences because my free will trajectory on my contract went this way. So does that mean that this hand with all the initial stuff is still happening?
Yeah.
Energetically, yes. But am I consciously connected to it? No. So eventually this dissipates, and it is kind of recorded, but it's not experienced the same, because my intention, my focus, my everything in consciousness is over on this new trajectory. Are you following that?
Yeah, that's not an easy concept, though.
I know. That's what we were teaching in this class, right? That's when she came up with the fact of, okay, Suzanne, but can you still be in both, right? And so if you're only listening to this and not seeing my hands, it almost looks like if my arm went up with my 5 fingers, that's one lifetime and 5 different options or contracts or whatever. And my free will choice would grow another arm, let's say off to the, at an angle. And I have this trajectory with 5 more options over here. So when I put these 2 lives together, can my soul experience both of them at the same time? Now, had you brought this up even 5-6 years ago, I would have said, not really, because your consciousness connection is really limited and boundaried and buffered by that frosting in between the sponge layer cakes of dimensions, okay? But now that the frosting is gone, we can eke into those other sponge layers, meaning I can eke into this other lifetime. So let's break it down like this. If this lifetime, I did not get married, I did not have a child, I did not meet my husband, and then a free will choice comes up, and my trajectory changes over here, and I meet this person, I fall in love with him, and I choose to marry him, I choose to have a child, and I choose to move away. This is where my consciousness is now with my child and my husband, and I'm in this world. But there is a simultaneous energetic file potentially still running that has some oomph to it that says, I'm not married, I don't have a child, and I don't have that career, right?
So associate this back to dimensions now, because you're talking about your contract and lifetime. So how does that apply then?
Because the dimension has opportunities now of so many more timelines.
Got it.
So the dimensions are opening up timelines. So it's not that I'm changing a dimension as much as I'm changing a timeline within the dimension.
Okay.
So in essence, you normally wouldn't be feeling one as much because it's dissipating. It's there. It's in the background. It's like just a small little narration, right? But it doesn't come in. possibly I, venture into that in dream space or meditative space. But in my conscious day, I am married with that child or whatever. Okay.
Okay, so
So
for that scenario though, you're going to expand into what that felt like for her? Like,
yeah.
okay, okay,
So when we first were doing, and I didn't know this at first, when we were doing the conversation and the intake part, she said, I think I might have been abducted. And I'm like, oh, really? And she's like, I'm losing time. And I go, what do you mean you're losing time? And she said, Suzanne, I lose hours of time. I mean, like sometimes it's 45 minutes, but sometimes it can be like an hour and a half. And I'm like, you're kidding me. That's so bizarre. And she's like, I don't know if I was abducted. And she said, and additionally, it happened twice when I was driving. And God forbid things happen to us when we're driving.
geez,
I know
right,
stuff like this happens to me too when I'm behind the wheel going, 75 miles an hour.
yeah,
And she's going down the road and a flash of light happened. A flash of light happened for her. And then she lost time. Okay. So, and then she loses bits and pieces of time in smaller ways throughout her day a lot since those flashes happen. So, two
okay,
significant flashes happen. And then for the next year or so, this has been happening kind of consistently. And when she comes out of these things, she has this sadness. She has this, I can't focus. I can't get stuff done. I'm not even like here participating. I just feel like I'm stuck. And so I went into this looking to see if she was indeed abducted, of course, because this is the conversation. And immediately I'm like, oh no, I'm actually seeing her consecutive simultaneous lifetime where she didn't have the children and she didn't have the husband. And what happens to her is when she loses her time, her consciousness connection flips over to the other one. And I'm experiencing this lifetime as a single person. I have a different job. But when I'm in that consciousness, I'm sad because I miss my child. I
yeah,
miss my husband. I feel like I'm missing something in my life. And conversely, when she's in this one, she is sad for her freedom or her whatever. So each time she's flipping, we're sad or discombobulated from the other one. And
yeah,
we don't have any context to pull from that. So we just think we're crazy. And when I am that much into two timelines simultaneously, because these are hour snippets or 45 minutes or 10 minutes, I'm never grounded in one
no,
reality
right.
ever.
You don't feel fully in your body at all. Like,
Right. So she feels confused. She feels like she's losing her mind. She feels very floaty. She feels very ungrounded. She just kept saying, I can't ground, I can't ground, I can't ground. So it was super interesting. So as I went into this more, it was very connected to her throat chakra. And that was super interesting also because as I was taking the intake and the information in, I watched how much it wraps around her throat chakra because I psychically watch my clients when they talk.
mm-hmm.
And a lot of things would wrap around her throat chakra. And I was asking her, are you the kind that always wants to make everybody, she's very empathic. She is an empath. That's why she came to my class and read the book. And she said, yeah, I'm the one that feels bad for everybody. I don't want anybody to hurt. I don't want anybody, I don't want the boat to rock or the eggshells to crack. And I used to be super, super scared my entire life to make the wrong decision because then everything would be chaotic or crazy. And then I couldn't handle that energy. So I used to be very much about scared to do something wrong, scared to fail, scared to make the wrong decision. And she said, and as I've been getting older, I work on that, but I still struggle with that. And so she can't articulate that or talk about that as much because she is empathing everything. Okay.
Right.
So as I'm doing the work, I asked her higher self, why is she doing this journey of being in two simultaneous lifetimes? This is ridiculous. And her higher self literally said, her lesson is there is no right choice.
Oh, wow. Really? That is so insightful. And it applies to most human beings, I think. I mean,
For everything,
yeah,
right?
everything. Right.
But it's kind of dangerous to learn it this way. But I mean, how profound, right?
That is just, I mean, how did she react to that? with
Oh,
that?
it was very obvious when I did the work because we merged her back together and I pulled her into the current timeline and she could feel she felt completely different. It was
Okay.
pretty astounding.
Wow. Yeah, it's goes back to you're supposed to have trust and faith in what your journey is and where you're going, but to be in multiple, like
Isn't
one is
it
not
crazy?
enough. How do you
It's
do?
nuts. I know it's nuts.
Yeah.
It's nuts. And it's happening more and more and more because we are no longer having the frosting in between the, the cake layers, it's the egg wash, blah, blah. We are able to dip in and we can dip into a past life. I had another client where I was doing a land energy clearing and he kept getting hurt on his four-wheeler or his tractor or whatever on this particular piece of land. And when I went in and did the whole clearing, I literally saw him with a past life where he died on that. I pointed to the spot. He didn't ever show me. And I walked out on his land. I said, this is exactly where you died in a lifetime. This is where you get hurt, isn't it? And he's like, I can't even believe you know that. And I said, that's because you're in a loop pattern of the other lifetime from the past life. And every time you get here, you reenact it. But this life, you're not going to die because that was that life, but you keep getting hurt. And this particular man had to have this piece of property and he had to have this, this land. And it was crazy. I mean, this has happened more and more now that I'm looking back going, oh, these are interpenetrating timelines. It's nuts.
It is so interesting. Because especially when you talk about dimensions and then past life and timelines within, it's like there's so much there that
So much.
why wouldn't you be going in and out of some of that? I mean,
and right now it is very chaotic for most clients and they're confused because I don't think a whole lot of people even know how to do that kind of quantum work where we go into the other fields and just exchange files and reorganize, right? So we don't know how to get better from this unless we know what to do. And so it's very, very hard because my brain is all over the place trying to make sense of one thing and it's not one thing, right?
Right.
It's not one thing. It's not one emotion. It's several. It's really difficult. And we can do this with a past life just as easy as we can do it with a simultaneous life, and we can do it with future life, which is really crazy.
So is it like a average person motoring through life and trying to deal with the thinking through the chaos and all of the things, like how do you identify this for yourself so you even know you need assistance or you can do this yourself? Yeah.
I think the warning signs are definitely what she had. Massive fatigue. I cannot understand or make sense of my emotions. I can't 100% own them. I can own them a little bit, but not really. There's kind of like this disconnect there. I can't make decisions. I can't move forward. I feel stuck. And then obviously in her case was the missing time was quite the large factor, but not staying grounded, not feeling like I'm in my body, not owning what I know or anything. It's just kind of lost. And it almost feels like you're in 0 point. You're just kind of floaty, And this is difficult too, though, Kim, because if I can even open this up more, talk about unleashing even more. What is happening now in terms of the ascension process, in my opinion, and again, take what resonates here. When we are our own human having this incarnation, we are connected to our higher self, which indeed has the files of all of my past lives and sometimes future and consecutive. So I am connected to my own individual library. In the past, because of the frosting in between the cake layers again, I have only been in this lifetime, in this human incarnation, and I haven't even had access or privy to my other lifetimes, much less everything else around me.
Right.
So when we look at it, I oftentimes have a little stick figure with a line that goes up to like a sunshine above it. And the sunshine is the equivalent of the higher self, is the nucleus of the sunshine, and the little, rays are the individual other lifetimes. And so those individual lifetimes pour the files into the nucleus of the sunshine, if we want to look at it that way, right? When I die, my little cord will disconnect from that body and forever be a ray in that sunshine of this incarnation. So what we're doing now in terms of this ascension process, because the ultimate goal is to be one, is to return to source, is to return to oneness. Individuals, unbeknownst to most of us, are going through the process of going into my own individualized soul and pulling in my past life memories. But this is a dangerous ground to walk on if we don't know what we're doing, because we don't want to have the experience. We want to have the information. We don't want the pain, the angst, the emotion. We want a PDF read-only file. We want to be able to go, oh, and if I have the emotion, I put that emotion back in and send that to source as well, because sometimes we are having the emotion. So what we're doing is we're returning to the oneness of all of my own memories. Okay. Then it gets even bigger and higher, because we're a pattern within a pattern. And that individualized soul retrieval is going even higher at the same time into my soul family. Meaning now I'm retrieving memories and experiences with my soul family, which may indeed might be my biological family. But as far as the group that we work with, we're all soul families. It doesn't mean we're related or at biology, but we're definitely from a soul bigger family, and we're retrieving those memories or meeting those people or having those relationships. Right. And then we go even higher to our soul essence, and we're returning to that as well. So now I'm remembering, other lifetimes, other planetary systems. So our information file folder is bursting open for many people.
I just had this visual of it, in the office, that the file cabinet opens and everything just comes flying out. And it's like,
that's what it feels like.
Where is it?
There's the chaos. It's like, right? And we're getting these information in snippets. We're getting flashes. We're getting faces. We're getting emotions. We're getting memories. We're getting it in dream space. We're getting it when we're unconsciously driving. See, she gets the flashes because we get in that Zen mode when we drive, which isn't really smart, but we all do it.
It's like you all of a sudden get somewhere and it's like, well, made it safely.
Yeah, right? So that's why they're coming in during these time periods. That's why we're crossing that egg wash. And so this is happening on a really big scale, because everything is going back to source energy. The planet is raising, we're raising, everything's going back to the oneness file. But man, this is tough stuff.
Well, and I can say that I have experienced like everything that you were describing, I have been experiencing over time. Right? Kind of roller coaster kind of thing, but especially right now, this week, I think with Lionsgate and with, starting with, solstice, Lionsgate, and then, new moon and all the energetic flashes and things that we've had going on, the Schumann, there's so much going on that is not only a physical body thing, but a very tricky existence. Because I like everything you described, I have been feeling extensively this week.
And we're having political things disclosed. We're having the Sound of Freedom came out. So a lot of things are happening with trafficking. A lot of memories are happening from other lifetimes of that. We've got, the actual fires in Maui right now. We've got all kinds of things that are instigating fear and memories in people that are like, oh my God, I can feel that, but I have no idea why I'm feeling that. And if we don't have the understanding of collective empathing, it may be seriously detrimental to your mind and your body to be able to be taking on all of this pain, and it will put you into a tailspin, and that is not healthy. No. So it's critical that people start understanding these timelines, and these overlaps are really, really dangerous for our health and wellness.
Now what?
Well, I think what's very, very important, my own daughter, I told this on something else, probably classes more so than a podcast, probably about 4 years ago now, was driving up to an event that I was doing actually, and she was on the highway and had a panic attack, like massive, like so bad she had to get off the highway, and she could not get back in her car. And she actually had her brother come and save her, because she could not. Her brother and his fiance came and took the car home, and he drove her. And it took Phoebe years to be able to even drive on the highway, because once she got to a frequency in the car, meaning 52 miles an hour or whatever, she'd panic attack. And for years, she took side roads and back roads. She would not get on the highway because she could not drive at a certain level. And she went to the doctor, she went to the GP, she was going through therapy, and God forbid her mother helped her figure it out. It didn't dawn on me that it was maybe a timeline thing. And right, duh. So much for being psychic. And
but that was 4 years ago. I think it's more obvious now than 4 years ago.
So I wake up one morning and I distinctly hear bring your daughter back to the scene of the crime. And I'm like, what the heck does that mean? And then they're like, oh, so I jumped in the car with her. She was really game for it. And I said, don't tell me where it happened. Just give me the highway and let me tell you where it is. Cause I think I can feel that it's a timeline wrinkle.
Yeah.
And she's like, okay. And sure enough, I knew exactly where it was. We got off on the highway and there was this, if you could envision it, it's like if the timeline was supposed to be straight, the other timeline was supposed to be laying on top of it. It was humped through it, almost like a rainbow through it. So there was, you know what I'm saying? So it was like a warp. Are you following
that affected many people, not just your
Oh
daughter.
my God, it affected
Oh my God.
multitudes of people that were driving through it for days and days and days and years because it was 2 years until I figured this out.
Oh, because I've been thinking so individually about all of this.
No.
Like the dimensions I'm in, my timelines,
Yes.
so this is huge. Like
this is massive stuff. And so, and again, and I'm not saying I'm fancy or cool, but you need to be a quantum worker to even see the wrinkle. You can't even, it's not something you sage, it's not like, oh, I'll go sage the highway.
Here's my Florida water. No.
Yeah. Doesn't work like that. So we pulled off and we redid it. And why she panicked at that 52 miles an hour was because that was the resonant frequency that locked into the frequency.
Oh.
Are you following?
Because so if you were going faster or slower, you wouldn't really lock into it.
Or because she's such a highly sensitive person and psychic sensitive and empath, she locked into it where maybe Joe Schmo over here wouldn't have even felt it.
Yeah. Like,
right.
Okay.
And so there's a resonance frequency. There's the ability of being empathic and psychic, and there's the ability of all of it put together. So is everybody driving through there affected? No. Is there multitudes of people? Probably. Do they have any idea it happened? No. They just think that they're stressed and they need meds. I mean, but her meds never even worked because it wasn't about that. It was about frequency.
Right.
Isn't that crazy? So we go back and undo the timeline and undo everything. And then she can actually hit a 52 again. And we, worked, well, I just redid the architecture right there. So nobody else would be affected, but it's crazy how this happens and we don't know it.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just nuts. It's so mind blowing. I'm still like thinking about myself selfishly.
Yeah. And you can bring in sadness. Like, we've been chatting this week that you've been bringing in sadness from Maui, and that's tough, and I mean, the sadness isn't just the sadness of Maui. The sadness is your remembrance of your Lemurian time in the Maui area. Your sadness is bringing in your soul contract, lifetime tentacle or whatever in that sunshine, bringing it down into your nucleus so that Kim can make peace with that.
Right. Right. And that's just going through this experience is, I mean, physically, emotionally, mentally, all of it has been impacted, especially this week.
And it's happening to many. We have another really good friend and peer who is feeling it in waves. And so she keeps getting like, almost like, now she isn't a Maui Lemurian by any means. She does other things, but she's definitely, in fact, I'm working with her later today because she can't find where the wave is coming from. So the wave will feel like almost like a real wave, like a wave of frequency. Okay, so you know how that looks when you see a wave of frequency, radio wave. That's what goes through this particular gal because she's more cosmic, and so she's off in the rays in the grids up in the cosmos. You're getting information down here in the earth.
Yeah, and I'm getting it from the ground up. Mostly.
Right.
I feel this vibration through my body, and it's in waves, but it's coming up and going back down.
Right.
It's not going through me like that.
And hers is coming from an electric. Yours is a magnetic. Yep. So hers is electric. And what's really funny is I'm hearing in my head right now, this is the first time that's ever happened. I'm getting downloads while we're talking.
Do tell.
That's really interesting. I'm hearing that the grids need to align better. So I better do some work on that today, meaning this is the earth grid and this is the cosmic grid, and it doesn't feel like they're connecting.
They're aligning, which it's so funny. The visual in my head was joining hands with her.
Yep.
Like what would happen if I'm magnetic like that and she's electric and we like just hold hands.
And do it with your own body, because if you are the one that's getting your ass kicked in magnetic, remember your crown chakra is your electric. So to be perfectly blunt, hold your head in your bottom half. the same time, and get down into your, pelvic area and get the resonant frequency to match up all the way through. And you can do this with your pendulum also.
I
Take your
do. That's how I do it every day.
Yep, and
Is
keep
like
doing that pendulum. Make sure that the actual circumference of each chakra is the same, because if my
it's
crown is
going the same direction, right?
yes,
Yeah.
yes.
So as you go to each,
Yep,
and
make
then
sure it's
when I
going
get
the
there,
same direction and the same circumference so that
yep.
you're aligned. Because if your crown is this big, you're getting way too much electric. And if your root is this big, you got no magnetic. So
Yeah. I've been doing that every day because I
good.
found that I was going different directions in some of my
Yep.
chakras. When was that? Last summer, even or earlier this year.
Yep.
And I figured that out. I'm like, what's going on with my lower body compared to my higher body?
Well, and think of that again. If my trajectory of information coming in and energy resonance is coming in a counterclockwise in one chakra and a clockwise in another, there indeed might be my wrinkle of information.
Yep.
Right.
Yep.
And so that's really difficult.
Oh my gosh.
I know this is crazy stuff.
It is. And by the way, using your pendulum, like if I'm off or it's not moving at all for some reason, you can tell it to move, like open
Oh,
up
yeah.
the heart chakra. Let's open it up bigger and make sure that the energy is moving, the fuel is moving in the right direction.
Correct.
Um,
And most people should be, if I can use that word, going counterclockwise at this point, because the actual inner earth mantle changed in January of this year. Counterclockwise is now the new spin factor with the actual mother energy. And so if you are still going clockwise on your chakras, ask your higher self, can I reverse this spin? And if you can't do that, maybe get some help from somebody to do that energetically. But this is changing as well, which is
yeah.
another reason why these wrinkles are opening, right?
Or at least make sure they're going the same direction for
Yeah.
until you figure it out. Because that's what I was going different directions. And I'm like, not connected at all.
Yeah. It's crazy stuff right now. I know, right? I mean, this is nutty.
It is. And it's hard because you don't know, especially outside of yourself, the information that's coming out through media, through social media, through all of the different things. You just don't know what is real and what isn't necessarily, unless you sit with it and listen to your gut, your intuition. There's a lot of stuff being disclosed, that's for sure.
Yep. And when we have disclosure and it opens up secrets, things that have been stuffed, things that have been hidden, our body reacts to that, because then our secrets and our hidden energy within this body and existence might be shifting also and opening up memories from another existence.
Yeah.
Meaning my DNA is going to pull in my past life or future life information. But if I'm having a dis-ease in my body and I release that, it might open that DNA, unlock that door to go, oh my God, now I have a new memory. And that new memory might have a new feel center. And that can be extremely confusing.
Oh, absolutely. It is confusing and it feels chaotic in your physical body. It feels chaotic in your emotions. It's like going on a roller coaster ride, you can't get off.
And we're not going to get off of it. I'm just going to tell everybody it's going to get bigger and bigger, the roller coaster dips, but it can get easier and easier when you start to have some skill set. Yeah. And in the Confident Empath book, I really lay it out in terms of the discernment process is body scan and ask the questions and get really skilled and adept at knowing what is and is not your frequency, or you're just going to have all kinds of trouble.
Right.
Because this is only going to get more and more and more. And that's not to be, oh, this is scary. It's just change. It's just, the cool part is that you can make peace with a lot of unresolved business, not just in this lifetime, but in all lifetimes, much less the collective world, right? I mean, this is kind of cool.
Yeah. And that's part of when you think that you've dealt with something and then all of a sudden it's popping back up again. This is part of that. It's like, wait, I thought I went through all of that. I cried the tears. I sent
so
it
what I hear every day. I already did that work. I've even said it to you. We say it to each other all the time. I've done that work.
I already did that work. Why am I doing it again?
I say we feel like that. What's that restaurant that has the awesome blossom?
The onion blossom.
Onion blossom or whatever it is. It's just like, the onion layers are not coming off easy anymore. It's just like that blossom burst open, the files are everywhere. So it is a little crazy, but have some fun with it, because it can be awe-filling, it can be awe-wondering, it can be overwhelming, but it also gives us the opportunity to go inward and take command back and get grounded and know that this body is pretty amazing, you know?
Yeah, I'm grateful that even to be aware, because there's so many people walking around that are unaware, and even to start to pay attention to the symptoms that you listed.
Yeah.
It's gratifying when you recognize it and you can actually sit down with it and do something with it.
And lastly, it's really great that if you run off to the doctor and have all kinds of tests and they say there's nothing wrong, you are not nuts, and don't get scared that they haven't found what's wrong. This is what happens to the typical human if they're not doing a spiritual journey as well, is when I have all of these ascension symptoms and I run off to the doctor and the doctor says every test is fine. And then you're like, shit, I must really be dying and they haven't found it yet. That gets me even more sick, right? And it's
the
the
worry.
it's
It
the loop
brings up,
pattern.
yeah, all that
Yeah.
worry and worry and worry. Yes.
Yeah. So if we can take a step back and find neutral and go, oh, yeah, 9 out of 10 on these on the list of ascension symptoms are what I'm doing. I maybe just want to take a step back and look at this differently if the doctor didn't find anything.
When you look at the symptoms for ascension, it can be,
Oh
I
my
mean,
God.
I was laughing. I'm like, well, that sounds like menopause, or that
Yeah.
sounds like, like
It's
age.
everything.
It
It's
sounds like,
menopause, it's fibromyalgia, it's RA, it's Lyme disease, it's all of it.
love
Every
it.
single solitary thing is the same thing if you go onto the ascension list, and it's like, okay,
Oh,
so.
okay. All right.
But the problem is then you grab that label and you think you have that thing, and then you create that
And
thing.
then you create that thing.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then you try to fix that thing. And because you can't fix that thing is because the ascension is still happening. Then you're frustrated and you feel like you're even sicker, and then you make yourself sicker. That's the loop.
Mm.
So if we just would surrender to the fact that we're all in all of these things because we're part of the ascension process, and just kind of dial that back a little bit and do our best in the present moment, that's really the best way to attack this stuff.
All right. I'm
Yeah.
in.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there's going to be a lot of questions around this one because it's,
yeah. I had a dude yesterday who was brand new, and he had so much pain in his entire body, and the labels of this, and I have this, and I had that. And when he was done, he's just like, I don't even get it. What happened? And I'm like, it's just energy. it's just energy. And then he was so cute. He's like, can we do this every week? And I go, you can do it every day. So it's funny.
Yeah.
So self-responsibility is what we're down to.
Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, that's a big part of it. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, I'm glad we got to share this one. Comment, and ask questions if this one kind of torqued your brain, which I'm sure it may a couple people.
Yeah.
Good face.
Really?
Okay.
Really?
Thank you, everybody, for listening. Kim and I love being here for you. Let us know what we can do for you. We enjoy being able to share our stories and unleash our thoughts. Take what resonates, as always. Hit subscribe, like, and share if you choose to, which we hope you do. Yeah. And comment, right?
Yeah. Check out Vibe Tribe. Check out your website. All of that information is on the YouTube. So
great. Until next, Cosmic Hugs.
Bye.